Hello, Planet Earth. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're at IDK. My BFF Jill 730.
My BFF
Jill
730.
I'm Preston L. Young, wishing you warm salutations and congratulations. As always, you've made your way to the Buffington Post. Today I'll be continuing my Season 9 coverage of the Buffyverse by taking a pit stop to take a step back and look around at what's going on from issues 16 to 20 of the Buffyverse. This is going to cover Angel and Faith's Death and Consequences arc and the Buffy Season 9 Welcome to the Team arc. And you know, I like to have a theme, and I decided that the theme of these two arcs are Hell Hits Home. And so we're going to be talking about how Hell has hit home for all of our different characters in the Buffyverse here in pit stop number 5. So stay tuned, cause here we go.
It is time.
One world, we're living in one world. We all in this together now. Uptown, I see a lot of brothers and sisters, young and old, living on the street. You and I, we getting by, sharing the world no matter who we meet. Yeah. We all living in a world of many faces. Lots of people trying to find the right places. We all living in a world of many faces. One big family in the making.
One world, we're living in one world.
You got it going now.
One world, we're living in
You and I, we looking to make it better now.
one world, we're living in one world.
You got it going now.
This is the day when our dreams go forever.
One world, one world.
One world, we're living in one world.
You got it going now.
This is the day when our dreams go forever. One world, we're living in.
Okay, Planet Earth, so normally I go through the minor characters and work my way up to Buffy and Angel, but I want to start off by talking about Buffy. Buffy at the end of Season 8, she destroyed magic because all hell was breaking loose and she wanted that not to happen anymore. And so we find her in this arc, and not only has hell really come home, it's because of her. Buffy has created this hell on Earth. Like, that is actually what she's created. Willow tried to tell her this at the end of Season 8, but Buffy just wasn't hearing it. She said, you know, hey, the world's dying, Buffy, and it's pretty much your fault, and we can't live in this world without magic. And we can live in this world without magic, but it creates this hell on Earth because, for all intents and purposes, it's going to turn literally to that if Severin and Simone are able to do what it is that they're trying to do. Because, like, time in the Buffyverse, like, basically right now, Severin and Simone want to readjust time, and it's just like we don't go resurrecting people willy-nilly. We don't go playing with time willy-nilly because it can have myriad consequences that nobody could be prepared for, and so, like, there's this whole supernatural element of the villains creating this hell that Buffy has basically given them, but more to the fact, it's hitting home for Buffy in Dawn. Like, Dawn is going away. Like, she's just disappearing, and there appears to be nothing that we can do about it, especially, like, before Willow shows up, but even now that she's back, we don't know what the limits of Willow's power is, because she's still getting used to it herself. And so, sure, Willow has this magic, but really, like, all bets are off. Like, we live in a world where we can't guarantee that magic will fix everything now. And the reason that it's hell hitting home for Buffy is that this is her sister, this is her one job. She has one job now. You know, like, magic's not there anymore, and sure, like, she thought she could just go and play robot, play coffee girl, play security agent, and she decided, oh, well, I guess I need to be the Slayer, but she did all of this to try and not be the Slayer, and rather than do her least Slayery job ever, which is just be a good big sister, she decided not to, and, you know, just go gung-ho into Slayerhood, which is admirable enough, because of course we do have the Zompires, we do have Severin and Simone, but really it comes to the fact that Buffy has not been there for Dawn all season, and now this is why, like, she did this. And so all of this is really good stuff for Buffy, and it's nice to have Buffy taken down a notch. This is her fault, and Xander's not afraid to point that out to her, and so hell hits home most of all for Buffy, and it hits harder than anybody else because, again, it's her fault. And I really like where we find Buffy here because, you know, Buffy, I've talked about it before, she's not somebody who has, like, regrets. And even though this is her fault and she realizes that, she's not going to dwell on it like Xander. She's not going to sit and blame herself and feel like shit about herself. She's trying at least to be proactive, which is what Buffy does. That's why she's the Slayer, and if hell comes home for anybody, it should come home for her because she's the chosen one who can defeat it, right? So I love what Buffy's going through here, and that moves us into our other big Slayer, who is Faith. And hell hits home for Faith in a couple of different ways. We get Spike coming in or toward the end of Death and Consequences, and that all sucks, but we've also got all of these other things going on for Faith. We've got Nadira finding out that, you know, she has been helping Angel this whole time, and so hell hits home for Faith because she has been caught in her lies, and it's really interesting to see not only Nadira, but also Daphne and the other Slayers tell Faith, like, hey, you lied to us. This is what you get. You've made your hell-shaped bed, now you have to burn in it. And Faith is dealing with a lot, not only from the other Slayers, but also she's confronted with Jigon, as I'm calling him, the Igon possessed Giles. And so, like, seeing Giles and realizing, like, oh shit, this is really happening, like, all of this stuff is really happening is scary for Faith, because she does miss Giles. She realizes just how important he is for her. And then hell hits home even harder when Angel is taken out of the picture, and Faith realizes again, like, I have got to really take on this mission. I've chosen to be a part of it, and without me and without Angel, it's just not going to work. And so it all falls to Faith, and it's a really nice place to find Faith, because again, she is so responsible in Season 9. She is Miss Responsibility, and sure, she's irresponsible when it comes to the Slayers and other things, but she knows how important this is, not only to Angel, but by the time we get to Spike and Faith, we realize just how important it is for Faith herself. She needs Giles back, or maybe she doesn't need him, but she wants him, and it comes from this very selfish place. Like, she doesn't want to let Giles go for personal reasons. Angel doesn't want to let him go for his own, like, you know, traumatic, crazy bullshit. But for Faith, it hits home a lot harder just because she's a human, and she doesn't have 200 years of fighting off her emotions to fall back on. Like, Faith really has to just be the person to try and find order amongst all of this chaos, which is really interesting. And we also find out that, you know, Pearl and Nash and Whistler, they want to create a literal hell on Earth for Igon, which is not fun. But, you know, Igon's gone, and Faith, so admirable throughout Season 9, and what can you do but love and respect Faith? Then we've got Nadira, our other Slayer. Well, we've got the other Slayers, obviously, like, everywhere, but she's our big Slayer for Season 9, who isn't Buffy or Faith, and Nadira's really interesting just because the hell that hits her home is she has Drusilla killing her friend, and she's like, oh, well, if Angel and Faith can go and play around with magic, then I guess I can. And what she finds is that, you know, not everything can be fixed with magic, as I was saying earlier with Willow. Like, you can't just fix everything with magic, and you also, a lot of times, can't rely on people to tell you the truth and really be there for you, which is what Nadira is discovering about Faith and not willing to accept about Faith. Faith has her reasons, sure, but the fact of the matter is, she's supposed to trust Faith. This is supposed to be like her sister, and she just can't trust her. And so all the things that Nadira is going through in this arc are really interesting, and it'll be interesting even more so to see where she goes now that she has abandoned not only Faith, but her other Slayer sisters as well. Our last little Slayer that we're going to talk about here is Billy, and hell hits home for him in a big way. He wanted to go out and be a Slayer, and he found out that being a Slayer is pretty, like, crazy and scary shit. Like, you aren't ready to be a Slayer, and that's what Billy finds out. Just like that's what Buffy finds out, and all of our Slayers find out all the time. Like, nobody's ever really ready to be the hero, and Billy finds this in numerous ways, whether it's Buffy telling him, no, you need to be home by curfew, or whether it's Dowling being, you know, completely, like, savaged by these zompires, or Buffy disappearing. Like, you can't just be a Slayer and have all the answers. That's not what it's about. It's about persevering, and it's about having to find a way through hell and get to the end, not necessarily, you know, saving the world all the time. It's just about trying to be a person and just deal with your shit. And I like what Billy's going through, and by the time we get to the end of Welcome to the Team, it's nice that he has Anahid and Dowling both telling him, "You're doing a good job. You're doing, like, as good a job as anybody else, and you're not even a Slayer, so good on you." Spike. Hell hits home for Spike hard. He is finally, like, in London. He's off not doing his bug thing anymore, thank God, because Spike, A Dark Place was its own, like, can of worms, whatever. Where we find Spike, he is finding out that he's not like Angel, or he is like Angel, but, you know, he can't ever quite be like Angel, which is fine for him because he doesn't want to be like Angel, but, like, he was promised that Aigon couldn't possess him because it couldn't possess Angel back in the day, and then here he is, and he gets possessed by Aigon. It's like, ah, you're not quite Angel, are you? And then, of course, when we get to Spike and Faith and we see that he does have this fear of losing his soul, and more than that, he has this feeling like his soul wasn't all it's cracked up to be, and maybe people liked him better without it, which is really hard for him. And by the time we get down to Spike and Angel in the basement of Giles and Faith's house, it's really interesting because he really does unload, and he talks about how having the soul wasn't all it's cracked up to be just because he did it for Buffy, and she still doesn't want him, and why is he in this living hell by choice if it's not even getting him what he really wanted? And so it's really nice to see what Spike has really been going through internally and finally expressing that to somebody like Angel, who really gets it and says, you know what, you can try getting over Buffy, but it's kind of doubtful. And so I really do like Spike where he is just right now in Season 9. It's fantastic. Xander, of course, hell hits home super hard for Xander. He has been trying to, you know, be a good guy, and Xander is a good guy, but all of the events from Season 1 to where we find him right now in Season 9 have been leading him further and further down this hellhole. He's finally living a normal life with Dawn. He and Dawn are kind of avoiding the super slayerness, which is totally fine. He and Dawn have their own, you know, priorities, which are each other. And when things start to go south for Dawn, it's like, what can I do? And the interesting thing here for Xander is that he went from somebody who asks himself, what would Buffy do, to being someone who betrays Buffy because he's seen what Buffy would do, and what Buffy does is kind of fuck everything up a lot of the time, and that's not necessarily fair, but that's the evidence before him. And so I like what's going on with Xander here. These final two arcs, they kind of come out of nowhere in the context of the rest of the season, but they really work when you step back and kind of look at the season as a whole and really look at these characters from their roots to where they are now. And so what's going to happen with, you know, teaming up with Severin and Simone, we'll see all of that in the coming arc, but I like that Xander is able to go out and make this decision, and I like that it's not a fun one to watch him do because we feel almost like we're betraying Buffy, or at least I feel like that's what the writers want. I can get behind Xander's betrayal of Buffy because, sure, Willow's back, but he doesn't know that, and even though Willow's back, there's, again, no guarantee that she can just fix Dawn. And Angel, the interesting thing is that there's very kind of little Angel in Death and Consequences, and it's kind of not fair to say, but by the end, when he is just completely catatonic, hell really does hit home for Angel, right? Like, he's been trying to get Giles, like, all up in him, and now that he finally is, he's all, like, 32 flavors of fucked up, you know what I'm saying? And so, his perseverance and just trying to make up for things is leading him further and further down into this crazy, just downward spiral, and it was looking pretty bad for him for a while there. And in this arc particularly, hell doesn't really hit him as hard as the other ones because he's kind of the level-headed one who's thinking clearly and has an end game in mind, while Spike and Alistair and Faith and even Sophronia and Lavinia, they all have their personal, like, drama and bullshit and, you know, relationships with other people out there, but Angel's mission is really just get Giles back and, like, just stick to it. And so that's all really great stuff for Angel, and we will have to see exactly how he plans to resurrect Giles, and we'll have to see if Whistler, Pearl, and Nash are going to throw a monkey wrench into that plan too. But that's pretty much all I've got for today, you guys, because you know I've only got 15 minutes now, so have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay. 730.